So, Brent Houston, you are city attorney for the city of Benton.
That's correct.
And I'm interviewing you today because we have a situation that's come up a few times where we need to fill a seat on the city council.
Yes.
And unfortunately, we've had the passing of Charles Cunningham from, he was Alderman for Ward 2. Do you happen to know how many years he was?
I'm not certain. I've been city attorney for 10 years now, and he has been an alderman that entire time.
Okay.
Now, I believe that Charles was appointed sometime before that to fill another vacancy.
Okay. Wow, that's interesting. They did that. He was appointed to begin with also.
Doug Curtis's dad.
Okay, okay.
When Doug Curtis's, it's my understanding when Doug Curtis's father passed away, that he took his position on the council at that point.
So our county clerk, boy, everybody's related in this small town, in some way. Okay, so we need to fill the position, or the seat in Ward 2. There's another seat in Ward 2, another position.
Evelyn Reed.
Evelyn Reed. And so, so it's just her right now for Ward 2.
That's correct.
And so we have two options. Is that correct for the city council to vote on? Which thing will we do? What are those options?
Okay. Under the statute, because we're a city that's has at least 20,000 in population, and there's more than 1 year left in his term, the city has two options. One, the city council can vote to appoint someone, which they have done in the past. In fact, you mentioned Evelyn Reed a moment ago. Her initial term was by appointment, filling in for Jolie Richards, who passed as well. The other option is for there to be a special election. This decision has to be made at the next regular council meeting, which will take place on May the 8th.
Okay, so that's soon.
Yes, it will not take place at the next meeting because that's technically a special meeting. Had they not canceled the meeting this past week, or this past Monday rather, they would have had to have made that decision on that Monday under state law.
Okay, okay, because the very next regular meeting, they need to make the decision.
They have to make the decision under state law to either call for a special election or decide to fill it by appointment.
Okay, so if they fill it by appointment, what is the process there?
Well, what they have done in the past is seek resumes or applications. Then they will interview the people who desire for the position, and then make a decision on who they want to fill the spot. The city council would vote on that.
Okay. Okay. So and then let's say they ask for people to submit their resume. I wonder how long we would wait before we have a cutoff date.
There's nothing under state law that says specifically how long that application process would take, but I would think 30 days would be reasonable for applications to be submitted, for it to be advertised, and then after that time passes, for them to hold a meeting, which would be open to the public,
okay.
And where, if they did it as they did at the last vacancy that they filled in this manner, they had a list of questions that each person was asked. And what they did was they asked all the applicants to wait in another room, and then each person was asked a series of questions. They had so much time for an answer, and no one knew what the questions were.
Okay.
And so they got to see exactly how the
So it's just like Family Feud. In the bonus round, you send one person in with headphones on, and then the other person in. Okay, there's no points.
No points, and not.
And they're not giving away a car.
That's true. That is true.
Okay. All right. So if, on the other hand, if they decide to go with an election, how does that process work, and what is the timeline on that?
You know, we would pass an ordinance requiring or holding a special election. Presuming if it did pass, then we have to get the ordinance to Doug Curtis by May 12th.
May 12th. Okay.
And if that is the date that we give it to him by, then we would have an election on July the 11th for that position. And it would be just like the other times or other elections where people get a petition, they get signatures submitted, they verify that they live in the ward, and then we would have an election. The vote here building would be open for 5 days for early voting,
Okay.
and then we would have 2 precincts open for the election on election day.
Goodness, that's a lot to happen in that short amount of time.
It is, and the anticipated cost of doing that would be about $8,000 to $10,000.
$8,000 to $10,000. Okay, so the upside of appointing someone is that there's no cost.
That's true.
And then
Minimal cost.
the downside would be that the citizens of that ward wouldn't get to pick their
That's
person.
correct. I mean, they certainly could voice their opinions to their alderman in
Right.
that area,
Right.
who is Evelyn Reed, and she could certainly have a voice for them in that process. But outside of that, no, they would not get to choose themselves who that person's going
And
to be.
so for an election, the upside is that those people get to vote directly for who they want, but the downside is there's a cost.
That's correct.
Okay, what fund would that election cost come out of?
General fund.
The general fund. Okay, so and if there's an election, then the key dates are May 8th is when the city council meeting is, where they'll decide.
May 8th will be the deciding day
Okay.
for this decision.
Okay, and then May 12th will be when the county clerk Doug Curtis would need
The ordinance.
the ordinance in
If
its
for a
hand.
special election, that's correct.
And that's your job,
That's
right?
my job. Well, I've actually already told, I sent an email out to the city council advising them the cost and the timeframes for a special election, and told them I would have a resolution for appointment and an ordinance calling for a special election ready on May the 8th, and they could decide which one they wanted
Okay.
to go with.
And then the election would be June the 11th?
July the 11th.
July the 11th, okay. All right, so yeah, it's still a short amount of time.
It is.
But yeah, we've got to get it filled. I think that answers all my questions about this. I'm just, it's a situation where I don't recall when we've had so much term left in an appointment versus election situation.
Closest would have been, that I can recall would have been Jim Gardner when he stepped down.
Right.
That I believe he stepped down in June or July of the first year of his term. And so
Okay.
there was roughly a year and a half left in that position, which is probably a little less than what's left in Alderman Cunningham.
Okay. Well, Brent, thank you so much for helping spell this out, because I had questions myself, and I'm sure lots of people do, and I wanted especially the voters from Ward 2 to know what may happen either way.
And what they may want to do is contact the alderman and let them know what their preference is.
Okay, yeah,
They
good idea.
can certainly contact Alderman Reed and let them know what their beliefs are and what they think's best.
Okay, and I know, you don't have a map on your desk, but to be clear, Ward 2 is sort of South Benton,
Yes.
is it south of what street? I know it's a jagged line, but.
Yeah, it is. Honestly, I'd have to look at the map to be certain.
Okay, but in general, South Benton, and you can look
Yes.
on the website,
That's correct.
the city website to figure it out.
That's
Thanks so
correct.
much.
Thank you, Shelley.